So far, I have explained to you what we do in unified meditation. That is, we are active in the spiritual world or the imagination that we are in it. As I told you early on, there's a very thin line between imagination and the actual soul work. Many times you will not know when you have crossed that line. But now I want to introduce a new concept before we move on. In my teachings, meditation is not a standalone activity. I have been both a meditator and a normal person who has a family, a career, desires, physical needs, physical wants. I have weaknesses, I have strengths. I have tried many things. In some things, I have succeeded, but in the most of them, I have failed. No matter how hard life becomes at times, I do not choose to run away from it. So that is something that everybody who is alive does. The only difference is that besides all those human mundane qualities, I practice unified meditation. What this enables me is to have a secret door to a different world. Sometimes I feel like Alice in Wonderland. When I meditate, I enter the spiritual world and I do things, go places, and become things. Then I wake up from a meditation and get back into the physical world, then do the work, run the errands, take care of the family, finances, and whatever things needs to be done, like washing the dishes, throwing the garbage, cleaning the toilets, and so on. For any of you who is going to practice my teachings of unified meditation, I want to emphasize the importance of taking the physical world along with your spiritual world. Most of the people have no idea that there is a spiritual world. So, for them, there is nothing such as taking it along with them, since they cannot even comprehend or accept that there is such a wonderland of Alice. However, for those of you who will make progress in any kind of meditation besides unified meditation, some will be able to open that door to that wonderland. Then what will happen is they'll be lost in that spiritual world. That is why we have those monasteries, ashrams. It is because those who have found the joy and the bliss of the spiritual world do not want to come back and face the suffering of the physical world. It is highly understandable. Again, for those of you who are not convinced or familiar with the spiritual world, you might say, what can be more satisfying, gratifying than the physical world and its pleasures like food, money, fame, power, sex, love, family? And that's again highly understandable. However, for someone who has opened that door to Alice's Wonderland or the spiritual worlds and has been able to go deep into it, there is a bliss that is incessant, that doesn't require anything to be obtained. And so it is very pleasurable beyond any material comparison. Besides that, in order to achieve that state of bliss, or what we have been calling it early on as Sat Chit Ananda, those people who are able to reach that spiritual world would have burned the bridges in the physical world. It means that they would have severed relationship with their families, work, colleagues, and the society in general. Also, many of the meditators who have the ability to reach that spiritual world and make progress in it have the tendency of ignoring society's processes like education first and then having a job or starting maintaining a business. These are all factors that will prevent the meditator from linking whatever he is able to achieve in the spiritual world with the physical world. However, in unified meditation, I teach the meditators not to burn the bridges and follow the basic processes of society, like getting a proper education, a respectable job, or do ethical, sound business, besides progressing in meditation. Both can go side by side. So, in this particular section, I want to explain to you how the physical world and the spiritual world are interconnected and related. This is important for you to know because this word relation can take many forms, as you can see in the diagram below or to your right. I could have just ended this section saying there's a relation between the two, but that would have made it shallow and the importance would have been lost in your mind. The next reason I am expanding on that is that the various types of relationship between the two is very important to be aware of during meditation. This is because we might be afraid that what we do in the spiritual world when we are meditating will have a effect in the physical world. On the other hand, we might think that something that we do in the spiritual world doesn't have an effect in the physical world. And then, respectively, what can happen is that in the first case, there is no effect, and in the second case, there is an effect. Either way, the person will be disillusioned and angry. Consequently, they will drop meditation out of that frustration. And then sometimes what we do in the physical world also affects our spiritual world, and we are not aware of that. So, in order for me to be able to explain to you all those contingencies, I need you to have a certain framework, a certain mental map. And this is the reason for this diagram. The diagram that you see is the way I think all the time. Before this book, I didn't have to have it in a diagram. It was very clear to me. But to write this book, I put my own understanding and knowledge into a diagram that everybody could understand. So let me explain to you what it means and how to understand it. So the diagram consists of two pentagrams. The one which has the apex pointing up represents the physical world, and the one who is upside down with the apex pointing down represents the spiritual world. This is the same diagram we used earlier in the meditation block, if you remember. You will see that there are six possible combinations. There are six ways in which the physical world and the spiritual world can be related, it means. So, what are those relationships? Let's explore now. The first one is showing that the physical world and the spiritual world are unrelated. They have no connection whatsoever. It means that whatever you do in your meditation is separate from whatever you do in the physical world. There is no bridge between the two. This is the view of modern science. It cannot deny paranormal activities fully, and even near-death experiences that are so well documented, as well as evidences of reincarnation that have been so much researched in the last century. So they make a provision that yes, there might be a spiritual world, but it's unrelated to the physical world. The next diagram shows that the spiritual world is a subset of the physical world. If you remember having studied set theory in your school days, then it's very simple. However, just let me give you a refresher course. It means that whatever is in the subset is also in the outer set. But whatever is in the outer set is not in the subset. So this is a very materialistic view of the world. Many people cannot denounce the soul because there are emotions, there is compassion, there is selflessness, which are all manifestations of the soul. However, the materialistic people think that all this is subservient to our physical needs or human selfishness, egoism, and even idealism. So these people will say that there is a soul, yes, but it's a small fraction of our existence and it doesn't affect us as human beings. The third diagram tells the opposite story, whereby the physical world is a subset of the spiritual world. So, this is what people mean when they say, I am not an embodied soul, but I am a soul with a body. The play of word might seem a bit hard. However, let me elaborate. There are some highly spiritual people among us who you might never have come across, who are so compassionate, loving, kind, that they will never be able to stand up to the competition, the politics, the fierceness, or the simple challenges of the physical world. They are basically very pure souls. For them, physical world is a subset of their identities and of their own consciousness. Their bodies is a burden. Their relationships are a burden. If they are young, the need to study is a burden. If they are somehow able to pass adolescence and get into adulthood, then getting a job working is a burden. Mind you, I'm not talking about lazy people or criminal minded people who do not want to work for a living but just want to enjoy. No, these people are just satisfied from within and they have everything inside, so they don't feel the need to do anything outside. As I told you earlier, there is an incredible bliss in the spiritual world that is not comparable in any way to the promises of the physical world. So these people get stuck in between. You can say it's like being in a different body. Like if you are a man and suddenly you wake up in the body of a woman, won't you feel awkward? And that's exactly how these people feel. Some of these souls who have by force been born into the physical world will have rich and understanding parents who will not require them to engage in the physical world too much. In this way, they'll be able to continue their spiritual journey. However, some of them will be born into normal families and they will have a very hard time. The fourth type of relationship is that the physical world and the spiritual world are independent, but they intersect at some point, as you can see. So we can say that these people are agreeable with both the spiritualist, like in the earlier paragraph, and the materialist, like in the second diagram. It's really a comfortable position to be in because you live to enjoy the best of both worlds, that is the spiritual world and the physical world. When you are pursuing your material desires, you can totally dissociate yourself with the spiritual world, and when you are practicing meditation, you can totally dissociate yourself with the physical world. And then in some practices, both worlds can affect one another and are related. That is at the intersection. Most of the practitioners of meditation and open-minded scientists have this particular concept of reality. For example, take a look at the book called The Tao of Physics, which is one of the first books that combines the spiritual and the physical world. Then Zen practitioners are very good in proving the relationship between the physical world and the spiritual world and the interconnectedness at some point, but not every point. Even Einstein is known to chip in the concept of God in between here and there. When confronted with the paradox of quantum mechanics, Einstein is known to have said, God doesn't play dice. Well, later on, he was proven wrong, but still, what we have to understand is even the top scientists who are the pioneers in their fields know that there is a connection. Those scientists maybe have no inkling to meditate, but they love to be in that intersection point of the spiritual world and physical world because it is where they get the greatest ideas. It is where all the inspiration lies. The same holds true for the writers, the musicians, the artists. That intersection is a wonderful place. The fifth kind of relationship I've shown here is that the spiritual world is a reflection of the physical world. It is opposed to the sixth kind, whereby it is also possible that the physical world is the reflection of the spiritual world. Obviously, both of them cannot be true, or can it be? First, let's try to understand what it means. Whenever we look into the mirror, we see our reflection. So if we raise one hand in the mirror, our image also raises that same hand. That is a reflection. So, what the fifth diagram would imply is that whatever we do in the physical world will reflect in the spiritual world. What this means is that the physical world is the primary driver or source of the universe, and the spiritual world is a byproduct of it. So it's basically a materialistic point of view of the universe. What it means is that, like a great theater or a movie would have a backstage, so this physical world also needs a backstage, which would be a kind of spiritual world. However, that backstage will be affected by what happens in the front. Now, what would this mean? For example, if in the physical world there are lots of war and violence, then in the spiritual world, people would have to feel miserable and desire vengeance. This is because physical world causes a reflection in the spiritual world. Alternatively, if we do lots of good things in the physical world, then we will feel good and we will have positive desires of doing good for the humanity in the spiritual world. So, in this particular relationship, we believe that the physical world is at the center, and there is a spiritual world because, like in a movie, there is a backstage, it has to exist. Not only that, there is no doubt that the certain feelings that we as human beings cannot be explained purely by physical realities and genetics, and there is definitely something beyond what we can understand with our senses. However, in this particular point of view, that unknown force is directly affected by what we do as humans in the physical world. The theory of randomness, statistics, chaos all arise from this understanding of reality. Even the most hardcore scientists cannot deny that there is something beyond the physical world, but it is just a reflection of the world that we live in, that is the physical world. The final diagram tells an exactly opposite story, whereby it says that this physical world is a reflection of the spiritual world. This is a point of view embraced by most of the religious texts, especially the Hindu traditions. So, in those mythology, we have all the gods working in the backstage that we talked earlier. And then they write the script, set the stage, and we are just puppets while they are the puppeteers. This is even a view by the famous William Shakespeare. In that point of view, the hardest thing to explain is why is there suffering then if everything comes from goodness, that is the spiritual world, then why is there pain in the physical world? The hardest thing to explain in that model is wars, murder, and any kind of violence. Well, as I told you earlier, the spiritual world's main characteristics are desires. I explained in my book, The Unified Theory of Motivation and Living, Part 1, in a concept called the tree theory of infinite people or individuals. That there are infinite desires and each of them has got to be fulfilled. The only good thing is that God or the cosmic system will fulfill them in its own good time, in its own preferred sequence. So when you use this particular view of the universe, then there is a war because people desired that in some earlier lives, that is, past lives, of course. So in this view of the world, everything that is desired in the spiritual world will be reflected in the physical world, either through war or through innovation and great charity work. This is again a highly extreme view. Now, coming to me finally in this section, abide to mostly the last point of view of reality, whereby the physical world is the subset of the spiritual world. For me, it's so easy even to see why two people are fighting or why two people are helping each other by linking it back to a possible spiritual cause. This is because I'm trained in this particular mental position. I cannot say I was trained. I was either born with it or I read too much on this particular concept. However, my readings have been balanced on all the kinds of relationship between the physical world and the spiritual world. So I would prefer to say that I was born with that concept. However, I practice unified meditation, and in my teachings, I do not encourage my followers to discard or denounce anybody. They say that even a broken clock gives the right time twice a day. All the earlier relationships between the physical world and the spiritual world are also true. Yes, I mean it. The challenge is to find out which particular incident or event is following which of the six models of reality. What I'm trying to say is that when something is happening in front of you, then it doesn't necessarily mean that it was caused by something in the spiritual world. It could also mean that what will transpire at that instant is designed to affect the spiritual world. It can also mean that nothing will happen in the spiritual world and it's just an event that will evaporate and disappear with no trace in the spiritual world. However, the challenge is to develop that skill to be able to decipher which event, situation, and person, people that you see in the physical world are related or not related to the spiritual world. But that's not the end of this section. The most important part is the following. You are reading this book because you want to learn unified meditation. And in unified meditation, I taught you that it's all about soul work. So, what you must understand is there are some things that you can do in your meditation that are totally unrelated to the physical world, and some that are totally related to the physical world, affecting it directly. In some cases, the effect might be immediate, while in others, it might take decades, if not lifetimes. So the challenge is to be able to know what you do in your meditation follows which of the six models of reality. that I've expounded here. So that's the main theme that I wanted to bring in this particular section. I know it's incredibly challenging concept, but I tried my best to explain to you. You are going to practice unified meditation, and there are so many things you can attain because my teachings is the culmination, the pinnacle of every meditation teaching so far. I do not denounce any teachings, any meditation, just embrace all of them because each of them reflect one of the six models of reality that I've expounded, and none of them are false. We live in a world that is even more complex than the quantum world, where the photon can either be a particle and a wave. Here, any event can either be unrelated in one world, yet cause havoc in another one. The same event could happen in one world and create havoc in the other world. And there are six ways this can happen that I have shown you so far. So, what I just wanted to explain to you in this long section is that in order to progress in unified meditation, you must be aware of those six realities. All of them are true. At the beginning, you will be confused. You'll think that what you do in meditation will reflect in the spiritual world. But then later on, you'll have to accept that it won't. Then another time, you will realize that what you did in the spiritual world and thought it was just a wishful thought and imagination caused an event in the physical world that might be to your benefit or not to your benefit. And again, there is nothing concrete to validify or disqualify your hypothesis. It's all about developing that intuitive quality. It takes time. And this is one of the skills you have to develop in unified meditation. Finally, I want you to embrace both the spiritual world and the physical world. Take them together with you.